the March 16th, 2022 Geneva Area City School Board meeting for the Board of Education. I welcome all of those in attendance tonight.
Amber, we can't hear you at all.
I think they need turned up a little.
Yeah, I think he was working on the mic.
Mr. Markajon, are you able to turn me up? Testing, can you hear that?
That's better.
Okay, all right. Calling to order the March 16th Geneva Area City School Board of Education meeting. Welcome to those in attendance tonight. Roll call, Mr. Lilly.
Mr. Arndt,
Present.
Ms. Fisher, Mrs. Metzler,
Here.
Mrs. Dixon,
Here.
and Mrs. Ortiz.
Present.
Are we in compliance?
Yes, we are.
Thank you. Can we all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Is there any correspondence this evening?
Yes. So I did have a number of emails regarding some of the recently created Instagram accounts, as well as an email from a student asking that phones be reinstated. I also had a few emails from parents about building level issues that were then redirected back to the building principal.
Thank you. Are there any agenda modifications?
There is a new 7E. The old 7E is now 7F. There is an addition to 7F7, substitute cafeteria. An addition to 8A4, substitute cafeteria. There is a new number 9. And then therefore the old 9, 10, and 11 are now 10, 11, and 12.
Thank you. It is now the time for the hearing of the public. This will last a total of 30 minutes. Each person that would like to address the board will be given 5 minutes, and you will be alerted when you have 30 seconds remaining. We'd ask that you state your name and address for the record. We'd ask that you come to the front to the microphones that you are able to be heard.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Wilson. I live at 3215 South Myers Road. I have 4 kids in Geneva schools, 3 of which have IEPs. This year, while doing our annual meetings, I've discovered some huge flaws in our special education system. ETR is not matching IEPs, special education teachers being new and not even knowing the current IEP even half the year in. The main teacher asked how a student qualified for X amount of services last year and only was going to receive X amount this year with the same goal. The special education teacher responded, "I don't know, I wasn't here last year. That's an unacceptable response. You've been teaching my kid for half of a year." This happened in February. She's been working with the child since August. If any other parents are like I am, they don't understand IEPs or ETRs or anything in between. I was lucky enough to find a teacher outside of our district to help me understand them a little. We need better communication with parents in the special education department. Parents need to be more involved, and we often don't know what questions are asked or even what our rights are. We need to do better. Our schools receive so much funding for these kids with interventions. It needs to be applied to actually helping our children succeed. I'm no longer going to sit back and watch as my child gets pushed grade to grade without learning the current material. I'll be here every meeting, every year for the next 18 years fighting for my kids, because I have 3 more that are going to be coming to Geneva. I shouldn't have to beg for my kids to be taught. It should just be happening by teachers and special education teachers. That was an unacceptable response from her. Even the teacher looked at her like she was crazy. Thanks.
Thank you.
Michelle Craig, 200 Cherrywood Circle, Geneva, Ohio. My initial plan for tonight was to highlight examples of how teachers and staff are being targeted. Seeing as most of these examples are open cases and I cannot comment on them, I will ask a few questions and share some excerpts from board minutes over the years. If this board does not know why I chose to read these specific minutes, then I guess you have some questions to ask and work to do. Example number 1. Dr. Treharn, why was a teacher placed on administrative leave based on a rumor on an anonymously run social media page? While you continued to remain in the same building with the child while being investigated by the Geneva Police Department for peeping into occupied restroom stalls. To our board, why did you allow Dr. Treharn to remain in the building while being investigated by Geneva Police for peeping into occupied restroom stalls? Why do the 5 of you continue to perpetuate a double standard? I am curious if any of you on this stage tonight are aware of Walter Haverfield's standard of evidence regarding Title IX. That's the law firm that you have on retainer. Example 2. I would encourage all current board members and our new superintendent to start reading through past board minutes. I have spent some time researching and found this exchange from 5 years ago. At the May 25th, 2017 board meeting, there was a conversation between Ed Brashear and Eric Kujala about staffing needs and sports fundraising. Part of this conversation centered around the strategic plan, which included requests to fund various extracurriculars. The following is a list of items that were discussed. Freshman sports, middle school cross country and tennis. There was mention of finishing JV baseball and softball fields. And, quote, Gamba has also requested the board to fund a majorette and flagline advisor. Mr. Lilly cautioned that any positions that might be considered to be added now would more than likely have to be cut in a year or two without passage of a levy. I have stated before that unless dramatic changes take place, there will never be another levy passed. After further reflection, I feel that unless this board improves on its community relations and quits being tone deaf, we will stagnate. This is most likely the very reason why this body had failed to pass a levy for over 20 years. Simply occupying a chair on this stage isn't enough anymore. Do work. Example 3, why are our teachers told that they are not allowed to speak to board members, that they must follow the, quote, chain of command? What exactly is the chain of command? Is there a picture? Is there an email? Many of these teachers live within this district and have personal relationships with people that are sitting on this board. Furthermore, they live here and pay taxes here, unlike you, Dr. Treharn. You have no right to tell someone who lives within this district who they may speak to on this board. To this board, wake up. Example 4. We have had 4 coaches resign as well as multiple teachers that are on the fence because of your management style, Dr. Treharn. No one wants to work with you or for you. No one wants to work here. Is that alarming to anyone here? Get out of the echo chamber, Board of Education, and start listening to people in this community. Pull your heads out of the sand and start asking questions. I found out today that the $2,700 tech boards that not one teacher wants at the high school can only be mounted on a brick wall, which means that in most cases, the kids' backs will be to the teacher's desk and whiteboards. This will cost $121,500 for the high school alone. No worries though, if you don't have a wall that will work, we'll just give you a cart to put it on, more money. Wondering what the kickback is when you drop that kind of money on a whole building. And honestly, most likely a district. I've not confirmed what is happening in our elementary buildings. The person who hasn't been in a classroom in over a decade, making the choice despite all the surveys, questionnaires, and conversations.
30 seconds.
It's a puppet show. Meanwhile, the sign coming into the high school is still broken. The first thing people see when they pull into the parking lot is a broken, beat down, crushed mess. The symbolism there is not lost on me. That sign is a visual representation reflecting how each of our teachers and staff feel on any given day at Geneva schools.
Hello, my name is Erin Van Buren, and I live at 225 Centennial Street, Geneva, Ohio. I've gone to student, parents, teachers, and other members of this beautiful community to get a perspective of how we can make our school district a better place for our students. To start off, I found an app that is enrolled with some other schools in the county. It's called Stop It. This is a great opportunity for students to anonymously report bullying and in detail report what kind of incidents happen. A place in the school for the kids in special ed classes to practice activities of a daily living with washing machines and dryers, stoves, refrigerators, etc. We are given piles of homework every night and are overworked to the extent that our brains can't take it. The solution? Nap time. Not in exactly a whole block where we all get our blue mats and sleep for an hour. Just 10 minutes where students and sometimes teachers can take a break and relax. A daycare program for teenagers who may be in a family situation where guardians are putting the responsibility on their oldest, making them stay home from school to watch their siblings. This also goes out to teen parents who may be tempted to drop out of school in order to raise their kid. This gives them the opportunity to get an education as well. I would create a student center in our media center. It would comprise a nice lounge area for students to do work and create better social skills among students and help them with conversations for real-world scenarios. That's if you allow students to be in the media center. Provide free access to sanitary supplies in both bathrooms. That includes spray-on deodorant, hand sanitizer, baby wipes, and the scariest words of all, pads and tampons. Some of these are because some kids don't have an opportunity to bathe themselves once or twice or even 3 times a week due to water bills, unclean water, homelessness, etc. A teen pregnancy program or even a small space offer pamphlets and resources for a teen parent, whether that's a presentation, hands-on learning on how to properly raise a baby, how to put on a diaper, how to make a bottle. You can incorporate this into classes like child development. Give out weekend food backpacks, a mentoring program in the community and in the school, like Big Brother, Big Sister, but for students to learn from a teacher, advisor, or even upperclassmen to gain social skills, knowledge, and to help grow. A teacher recommended ATEC coming to the schools to do landscaping for the students in special ed classes to expand their knowledge of the subject. Require a school supply list to share among classrooms. High school teachers provide tissues, pencils, notebooks, etc. by themselves, as far as I know. That goes for all teachers. There are statistics that a teacher spends about $500 on a classroom per year. Makeovers for some of the classrooms. I've compiled some students, including myself, who would be happy to give a makeover to some rooms in the district if given funds. It's a good way to give back to the teachers who sometimes buy things for their students out of their own pockets, as the last comment stated. All we would need is $100 a classroom and probably only 1 classroom a month. That's $700 a school year. To redo the media center, we heard it was more than $200,000 to originally do. What's $700 a month compared to that? Organize a book and classroom supplies donation for teachers. Remember this statistic read previously. This is a way to pamper our teachers for their hard work. To help the vaping issue at the high school, install vape sensors in the bathrooms that alert security about suspicious activity. Keep the school library. A little late, but I thought I would share that. School trips to the library, the public library, class by class. A student STA along with PTA, high school students helping out along with the PTA, even for credit in class. Class for students to learn basic necessities.
30 seconds.
Sewing, childcare, and CPR is a huge necessity, and I only know a few students who actually know how to use this information, let alone get to it.
Okay. We will need a motion for the approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Arndt,
Yes.
Ms. Fisher,
Yes.
Mrs. Metzler,
Yes.
Mrs. Milliken Dixon,
Yes.
and Mrs. Ortiz.
Yes.
Is there a motion for the treasurer's financial report?
Moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Fisher,
Yes.
Mrs. Metzler,
Yes.
Mrs. Milliken Dixon,
Yes.
Mrs. Ortiz.
Yes.
And Mr. Arndt.
Yes.
And a motion for the approval of the invoices.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Metzler,
Yes.
Mrs. Milliken Dixon,
Yes.
Mrs. Ortiz.
Yes.
Mr. Arndt,
Yes.
and Ms. Fisher.
Yes.
Are there any informational items?
You have the investment report. As mentioned last time, rates are going up. The Fed just raised the overnight funds rate from between 0.25 and 0.5. So like I said, we're finally seeing some 2-year, 3-year investments in the 2% range and over, which is up quite a bit from where it was. So that's a good sign.
Very good. Mrs. Dixon, the legislative report.
Oh, it's my turn already. I apologize. I'll be ready in 1 second. Good evening, everybody. So, there's a lot coming down the pike, and I want to remind everyone that our representatives work for us, and we elect them and choose them and pay for them, pay them. So if you have issue with anything, please reach out to them and let them know how you stand on a given issue. So, with that being said, Governor DeWine signed into law Senate Bill 181. The bill establishes restrictions on policies that prevent students from wearing religious apparel when competing or participating in interscholastic athletics or extracurricular activities. The bill also permits certain officials to limit the wearing of religious apparel if a legitimate danger to participants is identified, but requires an administrator or official to offer all reasonable accommodations. Additionally, the bill provides civil immunity for schools and school districts, among others. There was a second hearing on H-Bill 455, which would provide an opportunity for concealed handgun licensee or qualified military member to avoid charges for carrying a deadly weapon onto a prohibited place, including a school zone, if the person leaves upon request and penalize failure to leave upon request or returning with said firearm. Next is Governor DeWine also signed into law House Bill 51. The bill allows a public body, including a Board of Education, to temporarily meet remotely until June 30th of 22, and that went into effect immediately when he signed it. The House Finance Committee held sponsor testimony on HB 290, which would establish the Backpack Scholarship Program, under which all students would be eligible for $5,500 or $7,500, depending on grade level, to use for private school tuition or other allowable expenses. A substitute version of the bill was introduced, but the committee did not vote on whether to accept the substitute bill. The House State and Local Government Committee accepted a substitute version of House Bill 327, which would prohibit school districts and state agencies, among others, from teaching, advocating, prohibit them from teaching, advocating, or promoting divisive concepts, and allow the Ohio Department of Education to withhold funding for noncompliance. The substitute bill makes changes regarding which concepts are prohibited and which are allowed. It also removes the noncompliance funding penalties and requires the state board to amend the professional code of conduct for educators. Additionally, the bill includes specific requirements for boards of education. Those requirements are requiring each school board or other public school governing authority to annually adopt a policy approving a list of balanced, partisan and nonpartisan activities that are consistent with the bill's code of conduct provisions and do not promote one opportunity over the other. A second requirement is permitting a school district, school, or teacher to require a student to participate in a political campaign. lobbying effort, or practicum involving social or public policy, provided the student selects from the school board approved list of opportunities. Excuse me, I apologize. The House Criminal Justice Committee held sponsor testimony on HB 459. This would prohibit an individual in a restricted offender category from being in a position as an employer, employee, independent contractor, or volunteer with any person, group, or organization who has extensive contact with minor children. The House Families, Aging, and Human Services Committee held sponsor testimony on HB 454, which would prohibit all school personnel from encouraging or coercing a student to withhold from their parent the fact that the minor's perception of their gender is inconsistent with their sex. This bill is to be designated as the Save Adolescents from Experimentation Act, or SAFE. I had the pleasure of speaking with David Thomas, our county auditor, to get his interpretation of the SB 112 we talked about, foreclosed property being turned over to a school district. So Mr. Thomas's interpretation is that our county does not, sorry, I lost my place. The bill would require abandoned land to be forfeited to the state instead of a school district. So we had a question about, we don't do that, ... So Mr. Thomas said it doesn't affect Geneva area city schools. Ashtabula County doesn't participate in land bank ownership like this. Many areas, I guess, have a certain land bank ownership where multiple parties can own a given property, and when it's foreclosed on, then they choose where it reverts to. So doesn't apply to us, so I'm just gonna drop it. This is the last you'll hear of it from me. The Senate passed SB 168, which would establish the Ohio Mobile Training Team Program that provides basic firearms training programs to school safety designees and includes quarterly training required for continued certification. Just a couple more. The Senate passed Concur Resolution 14. The resolution, can't say that word today, I guess, would urge Congress to make changes to the Fair Labor Standards Act to allow a person under age 16 to be employed between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. during the school year. The House unanimously voted not to concur on Senate changes to House Bill 126. This is the bill that would prohibit a property owner and a school district from entering into a private pay agreement and prohibit a school district from appealing the decision of the Board of Revision. Additionally, the provisions of the bill would go into effect for complaints filed for tax year 2022. A conference committee will definitely be convened to reconcile the differences between the House and Senate versions of the bill. HB 562 would require the State Teachers Retirement Board to reinstate the cost of living adjustment, and that would begin July 1st of this year. House Bill 565 was introduced to add 5 students as non-voting members to the State Board of Education. I thought that was really interesting, actually. I just want to pause on that a second. They want to include students on the State Board of Education, not as voting members, but as contributors, as opinion givers. HB 582 was introduced to reduce term limits of school board members from 4 years to 2 years, to limit a school board member to serve no more than 4 consecutive terms, and to repeal the requirement that school board candidates appear on a nonpartisan ballot. And last one, Governor DeWine signed into law SB 11. The bill makes changes to paid leave for Juneteenth. It requires school districts to grant regular, non-teaching school employees who are employed on an 11 to 12-month basis paid leave, and removes the requirement that school districts grant paid leave to regular non-teaching school employees who are employed on a 9 to 10-month basis. That all make sense? And it was a lot this time. Thank you, Mrs. Metzler. Mrs. Metzler helped me pare it down. Even it was more than that that I found out this time. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fisher, the ATEC report?
Yes, for the second month in a row, the third Monday falls after the
can't hear
third Wednesday, so my,
Excuse me, Sally, can you move that mic closer to you?
pardon me?
Can you move the mic closer to you? We're having a hard time hearing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, for the second month in a row, the third Monday comes after the third Wednesday, so my ATEC meeting isn't until this coming Monday. We do get a Monday morning email from Scott Wildega, the superintendent out there, and they are working toward spring quarter. They attended the home show at the Ashtabula Mall, getting the word out that we have skills that we're teaching that people looking to home remodel or in the construction business can look to for employers or employees. And we are also pushing the final population for next year. We still have some areas that have gaps in the number of participants that we're going to various schools and the sophomore reporting in order to get those as full as we possibly can. And that's all I have for today.
Thank you. The report of the superintendent?
Sure. First, our administrators will be providing a brief report as they have been each month. And we'll be starting with our Director of Student Services, Mrs. Porcello.
All right. I just wanted to start with some numbers. Currently, in the special ed department, we have 450 plus active IEPs. Those are in-district students. We have 12 active initial evaluations going on, and there are 142 current 504 plans within the district that the people I oversee are working on. This past month, I submitted the justification for alternate assessment the state asks for each district to say whether they feel they're going to be under or over the 1% limit that the state is trying to, and the country really, is trying to put on students taking alternate assessment. If you say yes, then you have to justify why, and also provide a plan as to how you're going to lower your numbers for the next year. As of right now, Geneva has 15 students that are set to take alternate assessment, and that does put us below 1%. Take it or leave it with the new decision-making tool that the state came out with. Another thing that came to my attention this month is our state support team, SST5, is going to be providing a training on IEPs at the end of the year. June 7th is the date, and I did include the flyer that they sent us, where I'm able to take a small team, 5 or 6 people, down to Canfield. At the training, there's two sessions to it in a one-day period. The first one is talking about compliance with regards to the Office of Exceptional Children's Monitoring Guide. And then the second session, which I think is going to be super beneficial to our intervention specialists, is a small group session where we bring IEPs that we have written, and with a small team of people, we go through 5 or 6 different sections of the IEP to look for compliance and look for ways that we can improve them, which is one of my goals this year, and we've been working diligently on doing that. The last thing that I have to mention is that next week is going to be my secretary's last week. She is retiring after 17 years. Second page of this includes some nice comments that I received from a number of staff members about Sally, silly things about her. What I can say about her is that in the time that I've known her, she's one of the most hardworking and dedicated people. She makes sure that the special ed department and anything else that she is asked to do or touch is run appropriately in a timely manner, usually a very quick manner, and she's truly going to be missed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Marker John is going to provide the high school report this month.
Thank you, Mrs. Porcello, for turning this over. Mr. Weatherholt, he always asks our teachers and staff if they have anything to go ahead and put on these positives that he turns in for every one of the board meetings. And as the pages increased, unfortunately, Mr. Weatherholt became a little bit sicker, a little bit more ill every time there was another page. So once it got to 12 pages, he decided he couldn't make it tonight and decided I would go ahead and do this. But just on behalf of Mr. Weatherholt and myself, we feel very lucky to be able to work with the wonderful staff that we have, and most importantly, the tremendous and talented students that make coming to work every day so worthwhile. So a lot of this is the students' hard work guided by the wonderful teachers. The first thing was the Quiz Bowl. We've been talking about that. Students that participate in an academic challenge. Quiz Bowl competition still going on, and we keep getting more and more students to come out for that. So proud of both the varsity and JV Quiz Bowl teams, and I think they have an event tomorrow and another one on Saturday. Yesterday in our media center we had mock interviews. ATEC put that on, Stacy Zappatelli. We were lucky enough to have a number of members of our community come and give mock interviews to our seniors. Our seniors dressed up for the occasion. They were prepared, and according to ATEC, Geneva High School, at least thus far, did the best job of any other school in the county. Their scores were the highest in the county in their mock interviews. And I guess I'm kind of proud, and it's not surprising that we were able to do that because, once again, our kids do an excellent job. Thank you, Mrs. Szymanski, as the senior English teacher preparing these students for their mock interviews. ACT prep feeds many. Mrs. Smith's English class is able to go ahead and get food for working on ACT prep. So with every correct response, students earn 10 grains of rice for the World Food Program, which is the world's largest humanitarian organization delivering life-saving food assistance in emergencies and working with vulnerable communities to improve nutrition and build resilience. So as our students get smarter and more prepared for the ACT, they're actually able to go ahead and supply food to many needed families. Lids for SID. Our PBIS class hosted a hat day on March 11th, and students could wear hats at school, and with that they had to go ahead and I think donate $1. They collected $320 for our beloved student Sydney Brown, who is battling some very major medical issues, and we love Sydney, and our students showed it. Pajamas for Ukraine. The PBS students also hosted a pajama day. That was today, and they raised $275 for humanitarian efforts in Ukraine. We had 4 Eagles of Excellence in February. Freshman Taylor Schultz, sophomore Justin Lynch, junior Jonathan Reynoso, and senior Grace Moon were the recipients. Our science fair, our numbers used to be much larger in a number of years past. However, the quality of the projects has stayed at a high standard, and our science department has dedicated themselves to always prepare these students for the science fair and for jobs, careers in the science area. And once again this year, the students were very impressive. Adobe Design, if you get a chance, you can stop by and look at what Olivia Reese was able to put together with our Eagle Pride design that is in the glass area just out this way by our weight room. Liv, I think you're here tonight, and you did a wonderful job. It looks so beautiful to be able to walk down that hallway and brings on so much school pride. Our blood drive, our senior class put on a blood drive. Superheroes Save the World. Thank you for saving lives. They were able to go ahead and get 95 pints of blood, which goes directly to our community and the communities in Northeast Ohio. This is also going to enable a $500 scholarship to be given out in May. Advanced placement biology, a couple of very, very neat things. First of all, our students completed a DNA Gel Electrophoresis Lab this past week. This is something that our science department worked hard to go ahead and get for our students to be able to have that experience. The more that they can experience here at the high school, the better prepared they will be in college to go ahead and use these. And when they walk into college, into these classrooms, they're going to know what that device is, how it's used, and how to perform their labs. Also, another thing that Mr. Barbo does in his AP Biology class is they read Amonor's Dilemma. And when they complete that and have some discussions on it, they go ahead and try to put together a meal for them in the morning. I guess a breakfast, but some of these things might be a little bit out of breakfast area. But they try to go ahead and show farm to table and how that works. So almost everything was locally produced that they bring in to go ahead and make breakfast in AP Biology. So some of the things were venison, egg casserole, BLT sandwiches, eggs, cheese and ham, muffins, pancakes, and fudge. Once again, this was all produced locally sourced, and it was very delicious. However, I don't remember getting any fudge. Wood shop. Our students, the weather's getting better outside, and our students are getting a chance to go out with Mr. Dalton and work on our 4 sheds that need a little TLC. So they were working on that in the fall, and now that the weather's getting better again, they're going to go back out there and finish the restoration of our 4 sheds on the east side of our building. Our philanthropy club, they actually met via Zoom on a snow day on February 4th so that they could go ahead and decide where the $5,000 grant that they're in charge of could go to. They're waiting on the final approval from the Ashtabula Foundation, and they are meeting again on April 23rd to go ahead and clean up the community. Each one of the philanthropy clubs in Ashtabula County will go ahead and clean up their communities on April 23rd. To the board, there's a graduation 2022 information sheet that is also in this packet. That's a letter that went out earlier back in January that explains all the things the students need to do to prepare for graduation and graduation practice, cap, gown, tassel. The last 3 sheets are letters that went home together in a bulk mailing about when the testing dates are for the high school students, some test-taking tips for our students for end-of-course exams, and then finally a work that Mrs. DeBacker has been doing, and it's going to be a 2-day event here to work on our social and emotional learning. This is something that our staff feels very strongly about, that our students and our staff, but our students truly need some social and emotional education to help them get through these very difficult times that they're going through. We have a lot of students that are hurting in many ways, and we try to go ahead and listen. We try to go ahead and find help for them. This is a way to go ahead and show that 2 days of school are there to go ahead and help them get ready for the rest of the year and the rest of their lives. For many of our students and their students' families, it's been a difficult 2 years, and we want to go ahead and help guide them and show support with this 2-day social and emotional learning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Riley, who will be sharing his report about the middle school.
Good evening. In the board packet, right out of the top of it, there is a picture of the 8th grade girls CVC champs, who did a phenomenal job this past weekend in securing the championship. One of the things that what kind of struck me as just wonderful to see is that they played a lot of team ball, meaning there was many times down the court on offense, they were passing the ball around 3 or 4 times, waiting to get the best shot and an open player, and then they would put it up, as opposed to just grabbing it and running and shooting up. And that's good to see when the coaches are working at that level to get them prepared to come up to the high school. But a great effort on the part of the team and also the coaches, Emily Corlew and Brian Odell. Second off, the honor roll and merit roll for the second quarter is listed there. We did have a grade level recognition assembly on the 24th of February. Also on March 4th, we had a straight A donut celebration. I've included the number of students that were recognized because it's pretty impressive this year, or rather this past quarter. 205 students for the honor roll, 68 students for the merit roll, and then 93 students for the straight A. In the first grading quarter, there were 80 students that got straight A, so it went from 80 to 93. I think I'd asked the students to kind of challenge them going into the second grading quarter to see if they could move that number up, and they did. I challenged them this time to see if they could get to triple digits going into the end of the third quarter. So they did a great job with that. But I think one of the best things I'm going to remember about that straight A donut breakfast is, and the student council was the ones that provided the donuts this time. There were a few students, but one young lady in particular, she was sitting there and she had just finished up or was in the process of finishing up a jelly donut that's got all the powdered sugar all over the place. Her mouth was completely covered and her face. I just said, "You having a good time? You like that donut?" That's all she had to say. She went right back to eating. She was not the only one, but there was a few like that, so it's kind of neat to see. The parent group update, they did their first ever Scholastic book fair. They raked in just under $5,000 worth of total sales. They opted to take the cash out option, which would brought them in just over $1,200, with the intent to use that on some activities that they're thinking about doing for the springtime that will impact all of the students. So I'm looking forward to that. So although maybe only a handful or a few handfuls, obviously, of students purchased books, they wanted to give the money right back for the entire student body. And I think that's a great way, and they're just doing phenomenal. Couldn't be more pleased with them. We have had the issue where we've addressed with the morning arrival. As I had indicated last time, it was significantly getting better. I would like to say it's getting even better than that. I would think most of the students are in off of their cars, and the cars are off the street rather, by about 7:22 in the morning, which is pretty good. It used to be well after 7:30, so we're getting much better. I credit the transportation department, but also more parents or less parents now are driving because of the warmer weather. So I think that's helping us out a little bit along the way. But even if I or one of the staff members aren't out in front of the building for some reason, their parents are trained. They're going all the way down the end of the driveway and dropping their kids off now, which is kind of what we had wanted to see. So kudos to everybody on that end. The extended learning program has finished for the school year. We had some track. A lot of our teachers are coaches. So with the track season starting, we were just running into staff shortages. But I did put some numbers down there. They were somewhat impressive. We had recommended 36 students overall in the grade 6, and 20 attended throughout the course, and attended just about all of them throughout. Grade 7, we had 30 attended out of 45, and grade 8, 24 attended out of 36. So that's roughly, of the students that we initially invited based on all that information, roughly between 56 and 67% of them decided that they wanted to come, and many came all at once. There were 52 sessions total that equaled 104 total hours. So if a student took advantage of that and came to all of them, which many of them did, They got 104 hours worth of added instruction this year. So that's a lot, and it's a lot for the students to take in. It's also a lot for the teachers because they gave up their time, some family commitments. Sometimes they had to juggle around to make sure that they were committed to the process. So I'm very pleased with that. So I did list the staff members there that helped out throughout the course of the year. Testing dates are listed there. We start next week with the 6th through 8th grade ELA, and then we'll pick up the rest of them after spring break. We have had the students go through a couple of the Restart Readiness benchmark tests and are looking at some of the information out of that so the teachers can kind of take a look at those test questions, see how the students have done, and then use that in their lessons leading up to the test as one last little extra effort to kind of get them moving forward with that. We are working on an air boot camp concept that we talked about last board meeting. They were encouraged to select, those are tested subjects, teachers and tested subjects, encouraged to select 20 to 25 students that they thought based on their academic work in the classroom, based on all the data that we've had, those students were kind of on the bubble of maybe passing the test, and they thought if they can have them for just a little bit extra time on some specialized, really just focused instruction, they can maybe possibly get them over the hurdle. So at this point in time, right now we have the ELA 8th grade has selected 20 students. 6th grade math has selected 41. We do anticipate there will be more math coming up after spring break, which is when they wanted to do it anyhow. So we're kind of looking forward to seeing how that goes. The enrollment numbers are there, pretty much the same as they've been for the last couple of months. And upcoming events, just obviously spring break, which I think the students and staff and everybody's looking forward to. Student accomplishment acknowledgement this month. I did leave a copy of the Talon, which is our last edition of the school newspaper. The students just did a phenomenal job with that, as they always do. As I said, after I received the very first one, I was just floored at how great it was. And this one's just, I think it gets even better each time. So I'm looking forward to each quarter as they move forward with that one. I did list the editors for this particular issue as well. And finally, like I always do, I always like to take a moment to acknowledge a staff member, because all the staff at the middle school is doing a phenomenal job. But Anna Hazler, for her efforts, not only in the classroom, but also as a member of the building leadership team. She's done a great job. She recently created a Google Classroom for the teachers that's allowing us to put all kinds of information, our TBT records, our BLT minutes, everything that go into that spot. So it's almost like a one-stop shopping spot now for our staff. Rather than going to multiple emails, going to multiple Google Drives, they just go to one spot, find what they need, open it up, and they can work through their project there. So she does a great job. She, like the rest of the BLT, sometimes they're a couple steps ahead of me, which is good, because I like to think I'm a couple steps ahead as well. So for them to kind of work at that pace and take on those challenges, it's just truly a pleasure. So I just wanted to highlight Anna this time. That's all I have for the middle school.
Mr. Riley, I'm sorry. Mr. Riley will also be presenting for Mr. Liebert this evening, who could not be here.
Thank you. Scott left this information. I did give all the board members the packet that he had left for me. A few comments on his end was that Saturday, March 19th, will be the 35th annual Scholastic Bowl at Grand River Academy in Austinburg. Good luck to Geneva's Scholastic Bowl team that is coached by Anna Markajon and Brenda Unsinger. He has been completing the spring testing provisions, meeting with all of the buildings this week to make sure that everyone testing knows the parameters of testing security protocols. He came out to the middle school, for instance, last week and helped our staff already with that. Spring testing starts next week with the ELA testing in grades 3. April 5th and 7th is grades 3. March 22, 24 is grade 4. April 6th and 8th is grade 5. Grade 6 is March 23rd and 24th. The same thing with 7th and the same dates with 8th. And then ELA 2 is on March 22nd and 23rd. And finally, he has a reminder to the parents that it is important that we test all of our students that are eligible to participate. Please make sure that your child gets plenty of rest, eats a good breakfast, and does their very best on these state tests. And that is all he left for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Guston, who will be reporting on GPS.
Good evening. It's definitely hard to follow Mr. Markajon and all the great things that are going on at the high school with our students. By no means is this everything that goes on at GPS. I just kind of picked 3 highlights from the month. We actually had a virtual family night back at the end of February on the 23rd. We kicked off the Kids Heart Challenge through the American Heart Association via Zoom. Parents signed up ahead of time. A notification was sent home. They can indicate if they wanted to participate that night, how many participants they would have, if they needed a Chromebook. And then we put together goodie bags, courtesy of our PTO, with like popcorn, fruit snacks, juice boxes for anyone who would be playing bingo from home, and sent that with directions on how to join the Zoom link. So we kicked off the Heart Challenge that night with our rep from the American Heart Association. We played bingo for books that night because we used to play it in person. Many of you showed up before and helped us with that. It's kind of a tradition with the Scholastic Book Fair. And so the kids got to win books. The next day they brought their cards in to win books. But we did play 4 bingo games. Mrs. Shepard was there to help. Ms. Fleek was there to help. They both teach at GPS. Dr. Treharn came for the first time, and she got called bingo numbers, and then you can see on the board report, I did a highlighted chart at home with the numbers as she called them for everyone, and then you can see everyone on the other image from that night from home. And it was kind of interesting. Everyone did a really good job of muting from home, and the first couple minutes while everyone was logging on, they would show their pet or what other interesting thing they wanted to share with the group. So we had about 30 participants, and some families played together with other families that lived by them or they were close friends with. So we did a survey on that, and everyone said they really had a good time, but they want us to get back to more in-person activities. So that is our goal for next year, to bring it back in person. I wanted to bring the Scholastic Book Fair in. We had it actually booked in November, but obviously we couldn't have it that first week back in November, but we do have it on the books for next year at conferences to have the Scholastic Book Fair back with us, and then we can play bingo for books in person. We did celebrate Read Across America Week the last week in March, the last week in February, going into the first week in March. Ms. Fouts does a great job of putting that together for us every year. She's a big fan of Dr. Seuss. So we did have a spirit week that week. 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish, wear your red and blue. Fox in a Socks, wear crazy or mismatched socks and shoes. Happy birthday to you in honor of Dr. Seuss's birthday. They actually dressed up like their favorite Dr. Seuss character. And that day at lunch, our wonderful PTO had mini cupcakes in honor of Dr. Seuss, and they even had that theme, and all of the kids got small little gift bags, party favors for the day. And then Ms. Fouts did a book reflection contest where the kids won free books to take home. So that was really nice. You can see some images there. Some of the teachers, Mrs. Charo got really into that crazy hair day, as you can tell. A lot of hairspray. We always kind of wonder how she drives to work with her hair up all high, and if people look at her as she's driving in. But that just shows you how much spirit our teachers do have and how dedicated they are to our students. So my final highlight from the month was 5th grade science. They did owl dissection. So they're learning about how energy flows through an ecosystem in one direction, from photosynthetic organisms to consumers and decomposers. So the exchange of energy that occurs in an ecosystem can be represented on a food chain. So the students dissected barn owl pellets, and it's hands-on, it's inquiry-based. That's how kids really do learn best. And then through that dissection, they collected data by classifying the bones that they found there in those pellets into types. They separated the bones by prey type, and they made their own conclusions about the owl's environment and eating habits. So I did put a couple pictures there for you to see.
You have to tell them they were wearing rubber gloves.
Oh, yes, of course. It is a little disgusting, but, it gives them a nice precursor activity until biology when they get in high school. So that is all for the month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next from Quirk, we have Mrs. Doherty giving her board report.
Good evening, everyone. It's always a privilege to come up, especially this evening. As you can see, I have classroom news, and I get to share all the wonderful things that our teachers work very hard at doing every single day. So to start off, we do have first grade Mrs. Webb and Mrs. Schrader. They celebrated the beginning of March. Read Across America, you're going to hear some repeats here. They read many Dr. Seuss books and listened to some staff members. Staff members came in to read. I got to go in to read. I love doing that. And they read poems, shared books through partner reading. Each child received a Dr. Seuss themed goodie bag with a bookmark, pencil, and character eraser and a mini notepad for them. We're continuing to read all of the Dr. Seuss books and work on their readers' theater. Their AR levels are continuously getting higher, and kids are reading in front of the class daily. We're really working on that. We continue to fill up our writing journals as the students learn many new strategies to extend their writing with more details and for longer periods of time, which is what we're working on as a whole building. And they also are continuing to hone their phonics skills by writing some poetry, shared poetry. Our autism room, Mrs. Espanik is the teacher there, and she's been wanting to do something to this effect for quite a while. She finally had the opportunity. She is putting together peer-mediated groups for her students, and how she's doing that is she asked for teacher recommendations of students that would be good role models. And what she's doing is training them on, different social skills that our students in the autism room need. And they've been doing trainings in the morning. She shows videos in that. I was in on one yesterday for a brief minute. And so they are getting ready to start meeting with her students. She will cycle them in through the week, and so that they can interact with her students in the room and working on those social skills. So the students that were picked in our training, they're very excited. They're very into it. I think it's going to be a great experience. So I'll keep you up on that, reporting on that. And it's nice that, like I said, she has been talking about this, so it's nice that it's come about for her. In kindergarten, they're happy to brag about the fact that they have students in both classes that have started to choose AR books. So they're moving along with their reading as well. And they're at their reading level. They're reading them in class, taking them home. Thank you, parents. And to practice at home and taking comprehension quizzes over their books. They're loving it, and it's been motivating them to want to read. Both kindergarten classes are focusing on social skills, I think we all are, and working to be PACS leaders, bucket fillers. They're working very hard to make positive choices. That's one thing that they do learn in kindergarten coming into school. Our school initiative is to improve writing stamina and skills. Like I said, that's what we're working on. Kindergarten students are working to increase their stamina, respond to a given writing topic by getting their ideas on paper using pictures, words, and sentences. And we've been collecting data on that. It's been really interesting to collect data on that for kindergarten grade level. The teachers have been teaching me some things with the rubrics that they have and how we're beginning visualizing, verbalizing that writing process. So it's been very interesting. And they also celebrated reading across America, and they just looked into different genres of books. From Mrs. Stoll in music, and this is for all of our buildings. She's also incorporating our writing too. I'm very impressed with that. After learning about the science of sound in music, the 5th grade is putting their knowledge of frequencies and sound waves to use by playing their recorders. They have the recorders out. I know parents are happy about that too. And so they've been working on that. The students found 3 practice questions for the state science test that involved music and answered them. So she went over that with them. So test prep. And then the next one is about writing. The 4th grade classes participated in a mystery box activity. To complete a unit on composers, the students read a description of the composer, and then they walked around the room looking for pictures that matched. And then they did a writing activity afterwards. So I really appreciate her incorporating that writing into her daily lessons as well. And I do know she mentioned that Mrs. Gustin did get to sit in on the 4th grade activity, and the students were excited about that. In 4th grade, Mrs. Hall's she did something a little bit different. She really is trying to connect local theater. So she streamed a play that is offered from the Cleveland Playhouse, which is in our neighborhood in Playhouse Square. And it was about the civil rights movement, and they're learning about that in social studies and in reading, so making connections. And it exposed the students to live theater as well as learning. So getting all the creative students involved too with that. So it was very nice how she made that connection. And then 5th grade, I put plus because they've shared this with a lot of our teachers. Having morning meetings, that's not anything new. But Mrs. Kirk did find something, somewhat of an interactive morning meeting, and it really fits in with our writing that we're working on. It fits in with our student emotional their emotional learning portion. So there's different components. There's a joke for those of you that like to joke around. And they will work in the morning when kids are coming in on that. And then they can go over and, once school has started, discuss it and review things together. And it's a great way to get a lot done in a short amount of time, review, and just things to think about. The interesting thing, too, is that there's information about healthy practices like breathing, yoga. It'll ask them polls, which do you like better, hamburgers or hot dogs? So it gets them giving their opinion. And that it's really with the social emotional learning. Some examples, you could do a writing prompt. What is your greatest talent? So the students are talking about themselves. And what do you do when you see a classmate struggling with something? So, and we've also can incorporate our writing goals into that as well. And she shared that with many teachers. Many teachers have started using it, and they do like it. So I appreciate her sharing. And I do have some shout outs. Mrs. Sack gives away, I shared this before, the Golden Shoe winner. And that honors each class, each month, that holds themselves to spectacular behavior and sportsmanship. And I have been in gym class, and we do need to learn sportsmanship. So they are working on that. It's not the end of the world if you lose a game, so it's okay. So this month's Golden Shoe winner is Mrs. Bordeaux's 3rd grade class. She has a large group of students, and they have really progressed. They've come a long way getting better at getting ready for instruction of the game and showing that sportsmanship. So I'm very happy with that as well. And then I have a little picture here of Audrey Shannon and Jalen Arthur. They're in Mrs. Nelson's class. They helped clean up Cork Playground during their recess recently. So we do really appreciate that, and they should be proud of themselves. I know they are. And a shout out to Spider-Man for taking the time to visit our students at Cork. He was in yesterday. And to Mrs. Laura Jones for letting Spider-Man know that Cork students wanted to meet him. So they really enjoyed that. Even the older kids, everybody did. It was such a nice experience for them. So, and that could lead into a writing activity as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And lastly, we have Mrs. Brzenko reporting on Osterberg.
Good evening. A lot of things will be repetitive, but this summer we're hoping to have extended learning again for the students. Last year it was a great success, and I think it was something that we need to discuss further and make sure that happens. Also, to combat the summer slide, the district is offering summer solutions for grades K to 4 if the families would like this resource. Summer Solutions is a flexible program that can be incorporated as part of our summer learning, or students can complete the workbooks at home independently. Grades K to 3 will receive a Reading Summer Solutions book, and grades 4 will receive a Math Summer Solution books if parents opt in. Parents have until March 25th to return the flyer to their child's school, and when school resumes in the fall, students return their summer workbook and receive a treat, and that is for all 3 elementaries, so not just Osterberg. The elementary schools are gearing up for kindergarten registration. Mrs. Simmons and Bobby McCoy created really bright posters for each elementary school, and they've been displayed in businesses around Geneva as well as our buildings. And this year, families will register online, and then in April, they'll get a call from their prospective schools, and we will set up the process for them with their appointments. The press release was created, and that was also sent out, and I look forward to seeing the new and returning families in May at their screenings. Again, Read Across America. Dr. Seuss's birthday was March 2nd, and what better way to celebrate than to read? And many classrooms celebrated by reading and writing, since that is one of our initiatives as well. 2nd graders were authors and wrote about a visit from the Cat in the Hat. And students wrote about what the day would look like if the Cat in the Hat actually showed up at their house and what they would do with them. The students then typed their final copy and added their picture, and they are displayed in the 2nd grade hallway. I also attached some in the back on the other page for you to see. I have to say that Mrs. Hollis was dressed to the nines. I really thought she came from the book. She was really there. Osterberg Elementary is hosting a Scholastic Book Fair this week, actually, and we're excited to have parent volunteers back in the building once again, and if anybody is available tomorrow, we still need volunteers to help tomorrow. The teachers have a wish list, and actually they have little baskets with their names on it, and they put books in there that they would like to have for their library, and families then go ahead and purchase something extra for their classroom teachers, which is really nice. I've heard that a lot of books have been purchased by families for the teachers. I would like to thank AESA for organizing this event. I know it's something above and beyond, and the volunteers that are there to help. Also, Mrs. Cozy's reading class read about Mrs. Cozy, cascatelli. It is a new pasta that they're reading about in Scholastic News. I've never heard of this. With the help of Mrs. Stalker and Mrs. Palmisano, the students had an opportunity to actually try it for themselves to see if it really was the perfect pasta. The pasta was almost, to me, it looked like an oyster that was like turned like this, and it was able to hold a lot of sauce, and the fork was able to get in. They actually cooked it. They bought the pasta, they cooked it, they delivered it. Each one had a little container of it. It was actually pretty good. The pasta, though, is pretty pricey. It's about $6 a box, and you can only get it online. And the students really enjoyed the transition from actually reading something in Scholastic News and being able to try it out themselves and make their own determination if it was, as good as it was in writing. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the superintendent recommends the adoption of the enclosed Geneva Area City School District 2022-2023 school calendar.
Moved.
Second.
And discussion.
Mrs. Metzler, I have a comment, and it relates to a later agenda item about the letter of support for the Spire. And I just, it concerns me that they sort of were at their mercy. They want a letter of support from us, but like for graduation date. We don't have a graduation date for next year. It's not on the calendar, it's TBA, and that bothers me for people who need to make travel plans or graduation party plans, that sort of thing. And so I just want to say that. I'm not going to hold up the calendar or anything because of it, but I just want that out there.
Yeah, and we will have opportunity later on to discuss some of those questions and concerns.
But it's the calendar,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, the
Yep,
connection.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other discussion?
So I just wanted to add, when this was sent out to staff, it was calendar A for the staff that are here, had more votes that it received. So calendar A is the one that I'm recommending that the board approve. This is the calendar that has a last day for students of June 7th and staff for June 8th. I know it was brought up by some staff at our district leadership team meeting that that was their preference. The other one, I believe, had students finishing, or I'm sorry, staff finishing June 12th. And there was a concern for summer sport camps would have to get pushed back because of that. But it did win, not by many votes, but it did receive more votes, so.
All right, roll call, please.
Mrs. Milliken-Dixon,
Yes.
Mrs. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mr. Arndt,
Yes.
Ms. Fisher,
Yes.
and Mrs. Metzler.
Yes. The superintendent recommends that the board approve the enclosed interdistrict open enrollment policy for the 2022-2023 school year.
Moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just wanted to note, there is no content changes on this. It is basically the same policy as the district has used in the past.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mr. Arndt,
Yes.
Ms. Fisher,
Yes.
Mrs. Metzler,
Yes.
and Mrs. Milliken-Dixon.
Yes.
The superintendent recommends a motion to accept the following new revised replacement policies for board adoption. The policy numbers are listed on your agenda.
Move.
Second.
Discussion, please.
I did want to note, you'll notice that policy number 4439 is stricken. It was on last month for the first reading, and the reason why it is taken off or tabled till next month, I know that it was mentioned in the legislative update about Governor DeWine signing Senate Bill 11 into law, and so that will actually impact this policy. So instead of approving it now and then having to approve it again once those changes are made, hopefully it will be revised for next month. Neola, who works with us on our policies, has not come out with their revision yet. I'd reached out to them, and they're hoping to have something soon as well.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Arndt,
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Metzler?
Yes.
Mrs. Milliken Dixon?
Yes.
And Mrs. Ortiz?
Yes.
The superintendent recommends that the board allow the superintendent to utilize 24 football helmets that have not passed reconditioning and are past their 10-year shelf life. These helmets will be used for the purpose of promoting Geneva pride within the community.
Move.
Second.
Discussion?
This is going to be a spring break project for me. I plan on visiting various businesses across the district to, again, sort of meet more business people in the community, as well as ask them to showcase a helmet somewhere prominent to promote Geneva pride.
Roll call, Mr. Lilly?
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Metzler?
Yes.
Mrs. Milliken Dixon?
Yes.
Mrs. Ortiz?
Yes.
And Mr. Arndt?
Yes.
The superintendent recommends that the 2022-2023 budget with the amounts and rates as determined by the Ashtabula County Budget Commission be approved.
Move.
Second.
Discussion?
I was just asked to clarify one thing. When you get down to Schedule B on this resolution, C years, that stands for continuing. All of our levies, as some of you know, are continuing operating levies as far as the property tax goes.
Roll call, please.
Wait.
What?
Kevin, could you say that again, please?
When you look at this resolution, you see down where it says Schedule B, our levies outside the 10 mil limitation, it all says that they are not to exceed C, the letter C years. That C stands for continuing, as all of our property tax levies are for continuing period of time. None of them are limited, they weren't put on as 10 years, 5 years. They're not subject to renewal, but they are subject to House Bill 920, which reduces their effective millage down drastically, basically down to almost 20 mils from a voted amount. You see just above there, 42.39 outside the 10 mil limit. Those are about the effective rate of 20 mils.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Metzler?
Yes.
Mrs. Milliken Dixon?
Yes.
Mrs. Ortiz?
Yes.
Mr. Arndt?
Yes.
And Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
The superintendent recommends the following personnel actions for the 2021-2022 contract year.
Move.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a couple points to make. Certainly, I would like to thank Mrs. O'Connor for her years of service to the district. And in regards to a few of the resignations, just so that we're all clear on why they resigned, John Maribel had submitted a letter saying he would like to thank us for the opportunity to serve as an assistant varsity football coach the past several seasons. It has proven to be a wonderful growth opportunity, both professionally and personally. I now find it necessary to resign the assistant varsity football coach position to allow me to pursue other opportunities. I look forward to being able to again serve as a football coach should the need arise. And Don Shimsky resigned as he's moving to the head coach position.
Roll call, Mr. Lilly.
Mrs. Milliken Dixon?
Yes.
Mrs. Ortiz?
Yes.
Mr. Arndt?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
And Mrs. Metzler?
Yes. The superintendent recommends the following personnel actions for the 2022-2023 contract year.
Move.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
The substitute teacher list, it seems, is it bigger? Are we adding to it?
Well, I was not here last year to say comparatively speaking, but I will say, because someone else had inquired about that, it includes anyone that wanted to sub. So even if they only subbed one day or they're a regular sub for us, they're still on the list.
But has
It
our
is
sub
very
list got
similar
bigger?
in length to previous years.
For me this year, I would say, I'm sorry, what did
It
you
is
say?
very similar in length to previous years.
Okay. I know that this year alone, it has grown due to the flexibility we've had with that bill passing. So-
Outstanding. And we gave him a $25 payment.
35.
How much?
35.
35.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Ortiz?
Yes.
Mr. Arndt?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Metzler,
Yes.
and Mrs. Milliken Dixon.
Yes.
Okay, we are moving on to the discussion on the letter of support requested by Spire. Dr. Trehorn?
So I could share a little bit of background information on this. Mr. Orloff from Spire had reached out to me requesting a letter of support. My understanding from a conversation that I had with him, and I did invite him to come this evening to share, but he was unable to make it. He informed me that the city is doing a partnership with Spire to add one outdoor field. They're partnering specifically with the City of Geneva Recreation Department. I'm told that the soccer field would be east of the aquatic building and track area. The concept is that Spire will share this field with the rec program. That the rec program would have the first shot at usage of the field and then Spire. But in theory, it would, allow another outdoor field to be available, so it could help if other entities want to use it. I did ask how they would be utilized. Again, he did say that it was one field and it would be used by Geneva Rec and Spire, but in Spire's usage, it would open it up to Geneva as well, just by the mere fact that they would have more field time available. It was intended specifically for the rec usage, and he stated our usage if it's available. So there would be no cost if we would need to use it if it was available. And that's really all of the information that I have. I know that they're requesting the letter by Friday. So if that's something that the board, certainly wants to approve, I'm happy to write it and get it to him.
Dr. Trehorn, so have you written the letter? You haven't drafted it yet?
No, I've not.
Okay. The language that you shared with us about the suggested language?
So their law firm had sent some suggested language if we wanted to utilize it in the letter. I think sometimes they do that when they're preparing things to help out whomever they're asking for a letter of support, so it's maybe not as burdensome on that group or person, kind of just to help them out in that aspect.
Okay.
To that point, I would say that I'd be more comfortable if you wrote the letter, because I thought that their letter of support really made it sound like this glamorous, fantastic kind of partnership that everybody can get behind and support, and maybe we can, but I feel like we need to write that letter of support coming from us and how we would like it worded.
Yeah, their definition of partnership is not my definition of partnership. They want to advertise that we are partners, Geneva Schools and the Spire, and I feel like more like an employee of theirs. We need to wait in line like everybody else. We need to, I don't know. I've got issue with it.
May I interject some knowledge?
Sure.
Youth soccer in Geneva is huge. It's not run by the city athletic department. They have a soccer league, their own members and everything else. They have their own fields, they maintain them, they do the parking lots, they do everything themselves. They do the refs, the insurance, and they have money in a bank. They manage it well. It's not run by the city. We have to fight to play indoor soccer, and I know that because my daughter played soccer, to play soccer out there. So if they're building additional outside fields at Spire because they're partnering with the city of Geneva that doesn't even have soccer fields right now, and they don't support the soccer, what's to say that our school soccer teams aren't shoved outside to play outside now, or in the new fields that they're playing? Whenever you enter into a partnership, you lose control. That's...
Yeah, those are my concerns as too, Mr. Arndt.
And I think the only thing I'll say about that is they're not actively requesting us to be in a partnership with them. They're actively requesting for us to support the partnership between Spire and the city. So, I mean, I guess the question is, can we support their partnership regardless of whether our schools or any of their teams are able to use the new field?
Isn't that the same issue, though? How can you separate Geneva Area City Schools from Geneva City? I mean, I understand that the rec league and the school leagues, but what I mean is, it's a Geneva facility, and Geneva doesn't get any preferential, and I think we should. I think that we should get priority. It's here in our district, it's here in our community, it's our same children, it's our same students. It's not like the soccer leagues, the rec league are I don't know, students at mentor schools. They're Geneva students. I mean, it's always seemed sort of ridiculous to me that they get to make all the decisions, that Spire gets to make all those calls about when we can and can't use their facility, what we can bring there. It's not even our football field, right? I mean, we have to take all of our stuff and pack up every little crumb we brought there and take it back with us every week. It's like we're a guest in our own city, and it bothers me.
Well, so I'm not saying I disagree with you, but I am saying that we're guests because we don't pay their electric bill. We don't pay their heating bill.
We pay their taxes.
We made an agreement with them so that it didn't totally close, so that our kids did have a facility, because the taxpayers don't want to pass another levy and they don't want to put a sports complex on this property. So although I don't think that the relationship is perfect, we're still fortunate that we have a place, because I think once that 10 years runs out, I don't know if we're going to have a place.
Do we really have a place now, is my point. We have a place that's...
No, we don't have our own place. We definitely don't have our own place, but we have a place for the majority of the time. Is it perfect? No. Do we get preferential treatment? No. But we don't pay their bills. One electric bill there is $40,000.
We pay as much as Ashtabula City Schools, and we're right there equal to that. If they want to use it for graduation, graduation's my issue. Making us wait and wait and wait to give us a graduation date that's our 12th choice, when everyone else within even Youngstown, Cleveland can come and use it at the same. I just don't think it's right. I just don't think that the agreement we have with them benefits us.
No, and it never has.
Well, okay, then why did we make an agreement with them that
I guess, what are we saying? Are we saying that we want to support this partnership with the city Inspire, or we do not? Because that's the question. If we do not want to support it, then we will not write a letter of support. But if we do want to support it, we need a letter of support. I would ask that Dr. Trehorn write it, and we would need a motion. So that would be the question. If anybody wants to make a motion.
I don't think we should write a letter of support, because give me one moment, please. I don't see, if our agreement with Aspire doesn't benefit us, then how is the City of Geneva's agreement with Aspire going to benefit them? And if that's not the case, then I don't think we should support it.
What is, Dr. Trehorn, what kind of communication did you get from Spire, if any, about not getting a letter of support from us? What impact would that have on this agreement?
I believe, not to be quoted, but I believe it was something, I'm paraphrasing, to the effect that they certainly would want one from us, but that if they didn't get one, it wasn't like it was a necessity.
So then what is it for? What's its purpose?
Is it to help the grant process? Is that
Yeah,
what it?
I mean, I don't want to sit here and speak for them. That's why I
Well, I mean, what
invited
did
him
they
to
say?
come.
When they said,
We did
"Please
not
write us
have
a
a
letter."
very thorough conversation because initially he was going to come this evening and speak, and then I'd received an email a few hours later indicating that, in fact, he was not able to come. So
So we want to write this letter based on vague and incomplete information.
well, that's the decision of the board. That's not
Right,
my
that's what I'm
decision.
asking. That's another reason I think not to.
I am not in favor of writing the letter.
No, I mean, I don't think the letter's gonna benefit them or hurt them. I think it's just gonna put something in writing that's coming from the school board that may or may not be accurate.
May or may not be accurate?
As far as us supporting them, if we're not 100% supporting them, why would we write a letter that says we're 100% supporting it if we don't?
Right.
Okay.
What do you think?
Anything else?
Sally,
No,
what do you think?
I think that Jamie is correct. Number one, they throw it at us at the 11th hour, and they have always done that. Since day
Yes.
one, when they were built, everything that comes to the school board comes at the 11th hour, and they want us to act on it. And they want us to act on it with limited information. I think that's the wrong way to do business. What are we owning up to support? What does the support garner us? In order for you to support something, there has to be something in return. There has to be a positive outcome in the future for you to put your endorsement, your John Henry, down to support something. What are we going to get? We don't know that because, once again, they threw it at us at the 11th hour. So I would say that we need a little bit more information before we enter into any type of signed paper saying we support something.
We'll get the same thing we always get from them, which is roadblocks and excuses, and that's what we get from them.
Can I ask Ms. Fisher, do you have an opinion on this?
Well, having been here since the beginning of the
Can you
Spire-
move your mic closer so we can, sorry, we can't hear you.
having been here through all the Spire negotiations and so forth from the past, and attended the meetings prior to that when our public sports field over on Eastwood Street was destroyed by flood and by vandalism. And we found ourselves with a whole bunch of kids that wanted to play football and nobody to play, no place to play.
And band.
And the band and all the related track and field and everything else. And we had a very contentious relationship with Aspire. And we had months and months of meetings and back and forth. And then finally, the knight on this white horse came in and he was buying the facility. And we weren't going to be having to deal with all of the negative back and forth that we had been dealing with. And I think the thing that turned the day was we started thinking about the positive things. Okay, we haven't got a football field, but we have land. We have some money left over from the construction of the school buildings. Maybe we can get the people of the town interested in a levy to support a football team where they won't support education. Maybe we can do something to cover our bases and keep our teams on the field and our band on the field until we can get our own field. And they stepped up and they said, yes, we will give you 10 years free. We have to have some rules, just like every house has their rules. I don't go into somebody's house and wipe my feet on their living room carpet because that's not their rule. So I can understand, I agree that we should not sign a letter of support when we don't know what we're supporting. And that part is fine, but I also think that the negative, setting up a contentious relationship and a negative attitude toward the Spire is not going to move us anywhere. It's going to move us backwards, if anywhere, if anything, because if we want from the looks of things, we haven't moved very fast and very far on our football field. We have done, I mean, nothing is happening. And at the end of 10 years, we're either going to be playing out on the parking lot, or we're going to have another agreement with Spire. And if we start getting into a contentious relationship this far ahead of time, by the time we get up to that deadline, we're going to be out of luck. So my opinion of the whole thing is more information. I want to know, I agree that we need to know what it is we are supporting with our letter of support, why they feel it is important to them to get it from us, and then move from there.
Okay, just to be clear, what I'm hearing from all 5 of the board members is that there's some discomfort in signing a letter of support. But
Yeah.
one thing I want to clarify is that we do not have an option to get additional information because they have requested this letter of support by Friday. So if our decision is not to give this letter of support, then they will not get a letter from us, and we all need to be in agreement that that's okay with all of
Yeah,
us.
and maybe next time they'll give us a little more time.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to have 2 days' notice to give them something that we're not 100% sure why we're giving it to them, that's unacceptable.
Do you
As
or
long as we
anybody here
politely
think
tell them.
that it's given to us on Tuesday, the day before a school board meeting, wanting the letter by Friday, that's by accident?
No.
That's absolutely intentional.
Okay, well,
And if we want to play well in the sandbox with them, Sally, and I appreciate that, that we should and could do that, but they need to do that also.
Well, that's what I said, maybe
We
next
can't just lay down and
time.
be doormats and let the Spire set all of the rules.
Maybe next time they'll give us a little more time and give us a little more information so we can give them what they want. But since they didn't, we won't.
okay, so we can move on from this. We are all in agreement. We will not support the request.
And that's fine. I just do want to clarify, though, the initial first contact with me was not Tuesday. That was my last conversation with him once we were going back and forth in emails. I want to say I received it. I thought I had the date in here, but it was sometime this weekend. So it was very tight, but it wasn't Tuesday, just for the record.
So less than a week
Less than a
before
week.
they
Yeah,
needed
that's
it.
fair.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Trehorn, for clarifying that.
Anything further on that? Okay. Moving on to other. Dr. Trehorn, do you have some other?
Yes. So recently, per the Ohio Department of Health, they have now come out to say that K-12 schools are no longer required to report COVID-19 cases to local health departments. We only need to report cases if the school tested a student for the virus and the result was positive. So we are no longer required to maintain a reporting system for parents to report cases, notify parents of cases among staff, students, or coaches, report positive cases to our local health department, again, unless the school were to test a student and the result was positive. However, they go on to note that it's important to keep in mind that quarantine and isolation measures, which are outlined in the Mask to Stay, Test to Play protocol, which has been posted on our website, will remain in effect. They do support in-person learning by allowing any student exposed to COVID-19 but not symptomatic or COVID positive to remain in school while appropriately and consistently wearing a mask. I will say on my end, I do still plan on sending emails as I am notified, as unfortunately I had to send one today with 2 cases, but I do plan on keeping that communication and updating our dashboard as long as they're getting reported to me. I think that the rubric that we've utilized throughout the school year has served us well. I think it's been sort of a good pulse to keep us on and to keep kids in school. So again, as long as I get the communication, I'm certainly happy to continue to do that. Additionally, we have our Soaring Eagles for the month of March. So at Austinburg, first grade, we had Kanai Navarro, chosen by Mrs. Greenwood. She went on to say that Kanai is a well-mannered little eagle. He always says please and thank you. He is a positive role model for other students, diligently follows classroom rules and procedures, and that he is soaring academically. He has shown great improvement in reading and math due to his positive attitude. Kanai always greets others with a smile on his face and kindness in his heart. Keep soaring, Kanai. In third grade at Cork, chosen by Mrs. Jackham, we have Kendra Taylor. She wrote that Kendra shows her leadership by always helping others, especially when conferencing with her peers. She is a quiet leader and always shows kindness towards others. She always has a smile and she's a great listener. Kendra is currently on the Winterfest court, but she is so humble that you would never know it. Moving on to GPS, Ms. Fouts nominated kindergartner Zion Grady and noted that Zion is a model student in and out of the classroom. He is a hard worker and well-mannered. Zion is always willing to help and is a friend to everyone. He is the definition of a soaring eagle. At the middle school, Ms. Ball chose 7th grader Caleb Shimsky, and she commented that I have chosen Caleb because of his hardworking and positive attitude. Caleb is a kind, polite, and friendly student who always puts 100% effort into his work, completes his assignments, comes to class prepared, and is an active participant in the classroom. He sets an excellent example for his peers both in and out of the classroom. Through his hard work, Caleb has been able to maintain all A's and B's on his report card this school year, while also participating in football and track. Caleb always follows the school and classroom rules and is a great role model for his peers. Caleb has demonstrated great determination and perseverance in overcoming any obstacle placed in front of him, and he is the epitome of what it means to be a soaring eagle at Geneva Middle School. I am very proud of all that Caleb has achieved this school year, and I am delighted to nominate him for this award. And finally, at the high school, Mrs. Barbeau nominated freshman Janelle Kotz Valeras and noted that he is a young man who any teacher would love to have in class. He earns solid grades and attends school regularly. He is hardworking, kind, thoughtful, and self-motivated. He always has a smile on his face and a friendly hello to share. As an English as a second language student, he never makes excuses, but instead works harder and strives for more. In addition, he takes time at the end of his school day to clean and organize the classroom for his teacher. He soars like an eagle in more ways than one. Keep up the good work. So congratulations to all of our soaring eagles. Just as a follow-up from the public comments from last month in regards to the nurse at GPS, which actually is GPS and Cork, there is no open position to post, which is why that has not been posted. So at this time, we are just looking for subs to fill in that position for now. I'm looking to put together, with the help of the Ashtabula County Educational Service Center, a job fair for the county. So I've spoken with the superintendent there, Mr. Candela, and brought this idea up at our last superintendent meeting. This was something that I had done in my prior district and was a part of. And basically, all of the school districts in the county would come together. They could set up a table, and then we would invite everyone who wanted a job for next school year to come to fill all positions, not just teaching positions, but it could be a nurse position, counseling positions, bus drivers, tutoring positions, any position that districts are struggling to fill. People would come and they could visit the different tables for each district which they may be interested in applying, provide their resume. Sometimes if there's time, you could ask a few quick questions of them. And it's a great way to build the pool of applicants. So hopefully that will help us fill some positions for next school year. Also looking to partner with the Geneva Library. So recently I had the opportunity to, bless you, stop in the library and I briefly sat down with the branch manager, Lauren Webster. So I plan on scheduling another meeting with her soon to continue our conversation on how we can partner with one another, specifically at the elementary level. We have a plethora of our middle school students who go across the street on a regular basis to utilize the library, which is great. And obviously our high school students can drive, the majority of them. But we're starting to brainstorm ideas on how we can promote reading and literacy at the elementary levels and utilize the library. Some other reminders and updates. As a reminder, again, the Red Bow 5K is this Saturday at 9 a.m. at GPS. You don't have to run it, you can walk it, you can participate in person, you can participate virtually. Again, if you have any questions with that, you can contact Jessica Kirk. Ms. DeBacker, one of our high school counselors, recently sent out 5 pages of scholarships to students, so 30 scholarships that are opportunities for our seniors to apply. So I just wanted to, again, put that out there so parents are aware. If you have a child who's a senior, I would certainly ask about those because there is money out there for our students. I won't get into great detail because many of the administrators already commented, but state testing does start next week. And again, those start 3rd grade through high school. Again, I wanted to remind everyone because we are getting closer and it will happen before our April board meeting. April 2nd and 3rd, there is a free pop-up clinic at Lakeside High School. Again, they'll be providing dental, vision, and medical services. You don't need an ID, and it's first come, first serve. And lastly, the Geneva Area Chamber of Commerce will be holding their annual Chinese auction starting at 1 p.m. here at the high school on April 10th for anyone that would be interested in attending.
Thank you.
I have one thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Kevin, on the food service report,
Yes.
the $6,500 increase from February 2022 and then February 2021, is that due to just the current climate?
The fact that we, for the first time in a long time, have a positive balance is due to the increased reimbursement from the
No,
federal government.
for the food cost. The food costs in the center were for, on the receipts, you get, it's 31,403 for 2021 and 37,916. Can you explain that?
Well, we're serving more meals this year than last year. You know, we had more kids at home online. People had to pick up meals quite often at the school if they didn't come up. So you can see down at the bottom, lunches, 25,424 compared to the same time last year, 20,042. Same with, well, I guess not the same with breakfast. Looks like we had more breakfast last year because they were picking up breakfast along with lunch. But that difference in lunches is gonna, more food that has to be purchased to serve those lunches. So that would account for the cost, food costs being higher this month compared to a year ago.
All right, thank you.
I could also add that I know that she's been having some food chain supply issues, so some of the vendors that she's been able to utilize in the past to maybe get better costs, because of the supply issues, she's having to use other vendors, and it's driving up the price.
They're all scrambling for vendors.
Yeah, the bids that are utilized to get most of the food for the cafeteria, they aren't able to supply at the cost, the food that was bid, so they have to go out and look for it, as Dr. Rita Treharn mentioned, at a higher cost.
Thanks.
Anyone else for other? Okay, I'll just report briefly on my visit to Austinburg. I was able to visit them the last week of February, and this visit was a little bit different because I basically walked the school with Mrs. Berzanko, and we kind of took a tour of all of the different classrooms as opposed to me sitting in on any particular classes, which was very beneficial for me because we were able to talk through a lot of, for example, we went to the computer lab and we talked about how the students get 30 minutes a week in the library, and some of that time they are using in the computer lab to work on their typing skills, because it's important that these students have typing skills if they're taking tests on computers. So this is something that, you know, these students are doing, and the K and 1 use the computer lab, and the second graders are transitioning to Chromebooks. So there's a lot of skills that these kids will need. So that was one example of, you know, a stop along the way. We took a look at the computer lab. It is connected to the library at Austinburg, so it works out well for that. And We continued on our walk through the building. I was able to stop in at the special needs preschool, the unit that is a satellite unit for the DD unit. A lot of the places that I may not have necessarily sat in before, I was able to stop in, talk briefly to the teachers, say hello, see how their classroom is going. Mrs. Brzenko talked to me about, I asked about the sub situation, and in her school building, she's got a lot of reliable parents coming in as subs and tutors. So she was in a good way the day that I was there. I guess those days can vary, but she's got some very reliable parents that actually look forward to coming into the school and volunteering their time to be substitutes. And she also talked to me about the extended learning program, that it was very well received. They had, it was very well attended. They had 8 of their own teachers that worked that extended learning program. So that was pretty successful for her. And finally, I'll just say the second graders were working on their typing skills and learning how to type and insert pictures in the documents that they were trying to create. And they were hanging in the hallway, so that was kind of cool to see such young children kind of doing things that maybe some of our older adults really aren't even that skilled at doing. I mean, it's necessary for these students to do this, but it's something else when you actually see that they're actually accomplishing that. And I'm sure they feel tremendous pride in being able to put that up on the wall and say that they did that on the computer. So I appreciate being able to go into Austinburg, and I always appreciate going into all the buildings. Austinburg holds a little bit special for me because my daughter was there, and I appreciated being able to come into the building and take a look around again. So thank you to all of the staff and Mrs. Brzenko. That's all I've got. Anyone else? Okay, we will move on to the second hearing of the public. Still 30 minutes for this hearing of the public. Each speaker can still have the 5 minutes of speaking time and be alerted at 30 seconds. If there's anyone that would like to address the board, you can step up to the mic and state your name and address for the record.
Name is Brock, 196 South Broadway, Geneva, Ohio. I've been trying to keep myself as limited in my involvement with not having our questions answered, kind of giving in to the prospect it's not going to happen. I'm past the point of anger. But this week, I did want to at least make the board aware that I received a photograph of a local teacher who has over 24 years of experience with this district. And in the sub-posting, it said Title IX. That's available for anyone who has access to the sub-portal. Actually, I'm still listed as a sub, so I have access to that. Plus, I can message one of our friends who try to step up to help you guys out in the pandemic. And I was really frustrated. You guys have your Title IX website doesn't even work. Your link doesn't work currently. So you actually have to go back and you have to follow the sitemap. You have to go back one link. You have to click Title IX directly. And then if you don't click specifically the Title IX policy, you go nowhere. It's blank. It's not accessible. So if I Google it and I click it, I have nothing. Whereas if I go back and then I click your Title IX policies link and it says Title IX description, then Walter Haverfield's legal proceedings comes up. It has a few things on there, and right away it says the first thing in the investigation is both parties have to be notified, and then the Title IX goes through. But both parties weren't notified because one was an anonymous Instagram user, of which 3 to 4 days of investigative time was given to what I would assume is legal counsel, based on the rolling agreement that you would have with an attorney. I mean, I don't know. I work at a law firm, but maybe it's different there. I bill at $3.25 an hour, so that's $325 per hour that I bill. I know that maybe you have a unilateral agreement, but I would say most partners at law firms bill from $575 if they have a few complaints on their record up into $3,500 per hour, which is probably more relevant for this situation. Knowing that amount of time unknowingly went into this is concerning to me as a citizen. Like I said, I'm not trying to make a personal attack. I'm just saying that the fact that we can do it to a teacher 24 years, we could do it to an administrator indiscriminately. But I've been the section of criminal investigations, myself, that have been dismissed. And I know that people in front of me have as well. But I think that it's strange those people don't face the same consequences. I'm sure, I know that most people probably think that Michelle and I sit in an evil lair thinking of insults to hurl at everyone every day. I assure you we do not. Do we contentiously bring things to the public? Yes, but to hone in my point, I think that it takes I think it's an extreme statement you make to the community when everyone else is held to different standards. When I see every section of the Title IX invocation not upheld with this most recent allegation, but I can pull a public police report that shows a 1-month active investigation where someone made a complaint. That complaint was then investigated. There was another party that was given notice. It follows every single piece of that down to, I don't know, maybe the quid pro quo, and that's not a legal opinion, that's me reading a piece of paper. I'm not trying to be a lawyer here. I heard a lot today about you guys want to tell the community something. Tell me that if I have a child and they come to you with an allegation like that you would take them seriously no matter who it is. If they were here 24 years or 3 months, or you think it's bogus, and if you're going to keep one person's story quiet, please, for the love of God, don't put the accusation for a teacher of 24 years from an anonymous complaint on a sub-forum that was screenshotted and sent everywhere. Because now that person, whether he did, whether he didn't, and you guys know, I would assume now, and that person's back in school, that this was completely frivolous and shouldn't have been followed, that we wasted a lot of time. I'm guessing that I don't want to say wasted a lot of money, but as someone who works at a law firm, I think of them synonymously. And can we please have a conversation soon about some of this? Because I don't feel like we're on the same page, and I feel like a lot of people in this room feel that way. And instead of fighting all the time,
30 seconds.
It would just be more pragmatic to be able to shake hands, have a dinner, agree to disagree where we disagree. But please embrace us, because we're the community and we're not going anywhere, even after anyone's contract expires.
Okay. The superintendent recommends the board hold an executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official.
Move.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Metzler?
Yes.
Mrs. Milliken-Dixon?
Yes.
Mrs. Ortiz?
Yes.
And Mr. Arndt?
Yes.
We will not be taking any further action when we return from executive session. I'd like to thank you all for coming this evening and have a good night.